Hey guys, welcome to my unboxing and review video for the Camphelper. This is a flashlight that can take either 3 AAA batteries or one 18650, which is not included, but I do have several of those, so I will be using those in the review. First things first, this is the box that you receive when you order it. Very simple design. I just want to open it for you guys to see. There are 2 separate parts to it. One of them is the main flashlight, which you can see here. And then the other one is the extended tail that can attach to the back of the light, which we'll do in just a second, and it adds a compartment where you can store the tools that come with it as well as anything else you want to bring along camping. So let's just take this cap off the back here. I wanted to mention that it does come with a little adapter here that allows you to put 3 AAA batteries into the light. You'll notice that when it's in the adapter, it's a very similar size to an 18650 rechargeable battery. This flashlight allows for either method. If you don't have one of these, because these are a specialty flashlight, you can just go with what it came with. You can see that I here am using nickel metal hydride rechargeables. I pretty much use those for all my AAA and AA batteries, but you could just use regular Energizer Duracell alkalines as well if you have those on hand. One thing I do want to note, if you're going to use a lithium rechargeable battery, is, I don't know how well it will come out on the camera here. There we go. So you can see on the inside there's not much of a bump. A lot of flashlights, for example, have this little bump right here on both ends of it, and that allows you to use a lithium battery that, as you can see, is flat on both ends. This would be the positive end. If you try to use a battery like this in this flashlight, it will not work because there's no contact here. So you have to make sure, if you're going to use a rechargeable, that you get a kind that has the bump on the positive end for it to make contact. Just keep that in mind. Okay, I want to do a quick overview of what comes in this box and all of its features. With everything attached, you can see that this is a pretty long flashlight. If you were to hold it in your hand there, it's as long as my big mag light that I've reviewed. You don't have to use it this length, and in a second I'll show you what it looks like with this turned off. This is how you turn the flashlight on and off. You toggle between the modes by turning it on and then turning it back off. There's an adjustable bezel that you can twist there to control how wide or narrow your beam is. And then in the end you do have a glass breaker of sorts that you can use. This is actually the stock end of the flashlight that you would use on the battery cap when you don't want extra things, but this tube here allows you to store some extra tools in it, things like flint, fishing line, stuff like that, whatever you want to carry with you to have on hand. And then it unscrews from the main body of the flashlight, as you can see, into 2 pieces. One of them has on one edge of it a knife edge, and then on the other end you have a saw, can opener, and other types of tools there, which are very useful to have built in. And then this piece also screws off. So a very modular flashlight. There you can see you have the battery, and if we take that tail cap that we had on at the very end of it and attach it here, now you have a much smaller flashlight that you could put in your pocket or clip to a belt or in a holster or something like that. So let's take it outside and give you an idea of what these modes look like. Okay, we are outside with the Camphelper, and what I want to show you guys out here is the differences between the 3 brightness modes, the 2 other ancillary modes, and this flashlight actually has a pretty noticeable adjustment you can do to focus, much more so than some of the other lights that I've used, so I wanted to show you that. So with no further ado, let me turn on. This is the high mode, and what I'm shining at now is about 20 feet away. So I'm pretty impressed with this right off the bat when I was using it, and you can focus in, as you can see, really tight so that you can actually see the shape of the LED itself on what you're shining it on. It's sort of a weird shape to look at things at, but it's ultra focused, ultra bright, really good throw. And then other lights I've seen, you know, like this would be as tight as it gets, and then like the, you know, you can go to about here or so. Look at how wide you can make the beam. And then instead it doesn't hit that distance anymore, but look at how much usable area there is all around here now. I really like that about it. One thing I noticed that's kind of strange about the light is you can, well, first off, you can toggle the modes between just turning the light off and then turning it on again fairly quickly afterward. This is now the medium mode, and I noticed that there's not a huge difference, to me anyway, in brightness between the high and medium. They both hit distance pretty well when they're focused, and then when you pull it way out, they both seem pretty bright to me. It's a very white light, so much so that it actually has made me realize how several of my other lights apparently have kind of a yellow tint to them, because this one comparatively is so white, which I'm getting used to. I actually do kind of like how brilliant and daylight white it is. But I don't see a huge difference between the high and the mediums myself. And then if we go into this low mode, it is, again, a little bit of a step down, but against other flashlights I've used where you can tell a really big difference between the modes, on this one it's very subtle between all of them. But I do again like how much you can focus with this light, because even on the lowest mode, it gets very bright at whatever you're shining at, even a pretty decent distance away. And then when you come out of the low mode, you'll see that there's a strobe. The strobe I find interesting because a lot of lights I've had that had strobe, there's not an adjustable bezel, so it is kind of interesting to be able to strobe at things and control how tight of a strobe you want that to be. It's sort of a nice pairing there. Especially if you were using strobe in more of a defensive setting, being able to focus it in really tight on something is kind of cool. And then the last ancillary mode you have is the SELS mode. I am running this light right now on an 18650 rechargeable, but I was out here a little earlier using the supplied battery container that you can use 3 AAAs with it, and I was impressed. I expected the 18650 to be brighter, but they're actually about the same. But with 3 of them, you know, you're hitting 4.5 volts or slightly less if they're rechargeable, so it's pretty on par with what you'd get from the lithium ion, so I guess that explains that. I want to get a shot from here when I turn the light on in a second, just to give you an idea of the throw distance in my yard. I've shined at that back tree from the corner of my yard on a couple other videos for lights just to illustrate distance. In this one I actually think when it's fully reined in, as you'll see there, again it's sort of an odd shape, but so bright and so clear, and at this point we're probably closer to 40 or 50 feet away from that. And compared to other lights that I've shined at the same spot, you don't get the same spill radius outside of the hot spot, which is unfortunate, but if what you're just looking for is a lot of distance and a lot of brightness, that's pretty solid actually. Okay, so final thoughts. I've been using this flashlight on and off for about a week now. Let's start with some pros first. Obviously, as you saw outside, it's a very bright flashlight, and the ability to adjust the bezel to get in really tight, like you saw, is a nice feature. You can really get in on get in on things tight at a distance. There's a lot of detail in it. I do like that about it. I like that there's a lot more variability with this light and the adjustability of the bezel than there are on other lights I've used, where they bragged in their literature, oh, you can adjust the focus, but you really can't do that much with it. You really can with this. I do like that. I love that there's the battery flexibility, that you can use the AAA adapter that came with it, or if you're like me and you have a whole bunch of rechargeable batteries, then you could be using whatever's on hand. You could use these most of the time when you're home with a charger, and then when you do go out camping, AAAs are very easy to find and bring with you, whether they're disposable or rechargeable. It's really nice to know that you could use either one. The adjustable strobe feature that we talked about outside, I just think is a cool one. It's not one that I've really been able to use much on other lights that I've played with, so I call that a win. I do like the glass breaker on the end of it. If you were bringing this flashlight with you in a car, camper, etc., and wherever in an emergency situation where you had to break a window or something like that to free yourself, it's nice to know that this would do that for you. I guess you could use it defensively as well, along with the very aggressive looking strike bezel that's become really popular on flashlights. A couple things that I don't care for about the light, I think that they could be improved upon. One of them in particular, you can see it here. I'm guessing this is a charger port. It does say in the literature online for this flashlight that it's rechargeable. So I'm assuming that there's some kind of plug you can put in there, although it doesn't come with anything to put in here. And it does have a little thing that goes down in there, but it can be a little tricky to get it to get in there. And then I did find when I was outside playing with the light that the comfortable way to hold it, since you have to put your thumb on here, is to have your index finger on the other side. And as I was playing with it, my index finger kept just hitting that, and it pops out very easily, and then that becomes annoying with this thing hanging down. But on the other hand, if you don't keep this on there, then you'd be concerned, especially in a camping situation, that moisture is going to get in there and corrode that. That could be a potential problem. There is some rattle. I thought at first it was the battery inside the light, but it's the bezel adjuster that's a little bit loose, I think, and when you shake the light you can hear that. That's not a big deal, that's kind of a nitpick, but it's something that bugs me a little bit, and every time I do a flashlight review I always check for that, and I've been very impressed with some of the other ones I've done recently, that it's very solid and there's no shake. There is in this, for what that's worth. And you do get a little bit of play, as you can see, in the power button. Not to the point that I'm actually afraid it's going to pop off or not work or anything. I mean, it's very responsive. It works every time you have a battery in here and you want to use it. But again, compared to some of the other lights that I've used where the button is very solid, that's something perhaps that could be improved upon a little bit as well. And the last thing that I think I would point out about the light is it's cool that it comes with all these extra features. That this really is handy, as the name implies, for camping, for trips and things like that. The ability to store extra things in there is great, but every flashlight that I've come across recently has had literature that's come with it that tells you about how to switch modes, you know, how to charge it, how to blah blah blah. And although it's very easy to operate this light just by turning it on and then turning it off again quickly to cycle through the modes, and I was able to guess my way through that really easily, still, you know, I'm not entirely sure what that's for. There's nothing in any provided paperwork that explains any of that. Little things like that would be nice to get in the box, but otherwise I think it's a pretty solid flashlight, and at the price point that it's at, if you just want something that's convenient to throw in a backpack and bring with you on your next trip, that's bright, that's dependable, that gives you battery flexibility, heck yeah, that's a good choice for that. But hopefully this helps you guys if you were considering this flashlight to make a decision about it. And if you enjoyed this video, stay tuned for more. As I get more flashlights, I'll be putting more up, and we'll be talking about other things on this channel as well. If you want to subscribe so that you can stay abreast for those, go ahead and do that, and please like this video if it was useful to you. And otherwise, see you guys next time.